Welcome to the Visa Halftime Report. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Well, there are many things to talk about in this Visa Halftime Report. There's pretty much a lot of history that's been unveiled too recently about the Capitol Street that has been shown in the 40s. What was it like to back then? How popular it would get, like how big of a street will it get, and it's still very interesting to this day after 79 years. So in the 1940s, there was a proposal to make East Capitol Street into a wide monumental avenue, which, I mean, there's a map that will show what it will look like, or if we had some other glimpses into what was DC like at the time. So I'm not the greatest with maps here, but as you can see, there's East Capitol Street in its 40s look when World War II hit it. And one glance shows how different the DC it depicts from it's from how DC looks today. And today, East Capitol Street is typical Capitol Hill Street. It's not very wide, and most buildings along the street are small. And the map shows that East Capitol, that looks like the National Mall, continuing past the Capitol building and stretching into the Anacostia River. And it turns out that the map was drawn up by the National Capital Park and Planning Commission in 41. It details proposals that would have incorporated much of the land between Constitution Avenue and Independence Avenue southeast into a new space of federal and district government buildings. The Library of Congress also has a copy of the map on its website, where you can find it, zoom in on many of the details. And so one of the most noticeable things in how many of the now historic buildings that are along East Capitol Street today would have been raised to make room for wider streets and for office buildings. The corners of Lincoln Park and Capitol Hill would have been rounded off to make the space shape more like an oval, and Independence Constitution Avenues would have been widened to some freeway-like sections along with tunnels underneath the Capitol building itself. And that would have meant the road stayed very wide for the entire length across the city. And had all this happened, the East Capitol would have probably looked similar to today's Independence Avenue Southwest near the USDA complex, which actually would look like this. Not so wide, right? So, and honestly, the map shows a sign of the times. And other details that I kind of noticed is a stadium near RFK, where RFK sits today, along with other athletic facilities, including tennis courts, indoor swimming pool, and whatnot, that may have come into detail. Here's a look at the bottom here in Street View. Here's Independence Avenue Southwest, that is. It's 3 lanes. Some building to the right could resemble the sports complex, that is. And there's also no bridge across the Anacostia River. Instead, Constitution and Independence Avenues both veer off the map, traveling along Anacostia's western shore. It's obviously different today because now we have the Whitney Young Memorial Bridge. And it's also looks like that there were a few plans for a new rail bridge and tunnel that would cross the Anacostia closer to today's RK site and presumably link up with the current right-of-way near LaFont Plaza. And of course, this map is drawn in 41. There's no interstate highways cutting through the southwest and southeast quadrants of the city, and Constitution Avenue dead ends at the Potomac rather than linked to today's Roosevelt Bridge. So what do you notice in the map? Feel free to pause and leave a comment if necessary. Now, aside from that, there's a plan that we've seen that will help Baltimore's Penn Station reach its full potential. Is it really going to happen? So Pennsylvania Station is Baltimore's main transit hub, which feeds Amtrak, MARC Light, and local light rail and bus lines into the city and region. Despite its importance, the station is awkwardly situated and not very well connected with the rest of the city. And a plan developed by Amtrak and local developers aims to capitalize on the station's potential the way DC and Denver have over the past few decades with their respective Union stations. So Baltimore has a Penn Station, we have Union stations everywhere. In many ways, Penn Station is the perfect embodiment of Baltimore. It's quirky and charming, guarded by a towering sculpture that everybody either loves or hates. It's centrally located over some of the city's trendiest and artiest neighborhoods. It's the 8th busiest station in Amtrak's national network. With over 1 million passengers each year, over 3 million if it counts its eponym, the MARC Penn line, and the ridership is expected to double over the next half century. Yet it's also extremely isolated. It's cut off from much of the rest of the city, and even manufactured Baltimore's light rail system, which is near I-83 and in Jones Falls Expressway. And in many ways, it has just as much potential as its more celebrated counterparts in Philly and D.C., yet much of that space is woefully underused. And Amtrak, which owns Penn Station, comes along with Cross Street Partners and BD Development under the banner of Penn Station Partners, and they've begun collecting their ideas to revamp the station and surrounding area in the Penn Station Vision Plan. Whether or not that plan is enough to realize that the potential remains to be seen. And there's a summary report that they provided. I was supposed to look at, and there actually is going to be more people-focused public realm, multimodal transit hub, vibrant, active mixed use. Some more things coming to the station in itself, and the Penn State Vision Plan, which technically kicked off last year with its first meeting, and the selection of Penn Station Partners certainly doesn't want for interest around Baltimore. And last week's meeting was so packed that organizers had to move it across the street to a bigger area. Multiple Maryland state legislators attended, including Regina Boyce and Stephanie Smith, as well as one Baltimore City Council member, Robert Stokes. And the Penn Station's District Congressman, Elijah Cummings, wasn't able to make it that one. But he still received a standing ovation when the speaker mentioned his support for the project. So here's an interior of how Penn Station currently looks right now. Kind of old, historic, and like more can be done to update it. There's a lot of encouraging news from BD Vice President of Community Development, Tim Pula, and our three main speakers at the event: Amtrak Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer DJ Stadler, Cross Street Partners Principal Managing Partner CEO Bill Struver, and Brian Traylor, like Tray LOR, the Amtrak planning manager overseeing Penn Station's redevelopment. And Amtrak has already committed $90 million to renovating the existing station and building a new concourse, which the frequently overcrowded station badly needs. And travelers rarely go up to the station's upper floors, and the ground floor is also underused except for a small cafe, convenience store, book and magazine stand with an interesting taste in literature. And books will be leased out and redesigned for retail, and Amtrak will also conduct new high-speed rail facilities as a part of a larger $2.5 billion investment in high-speed rail. Many of the development team's goals certainly sound appealing. Mixed-use developments featuring local retailers that take advantage of underused storage and space owned by Amtrak throughout the station's rail yards and walkshed. Potential hotel, office space design, take advantage of Baltimore's leasing rates. Community sourced art adorning the station's walls and entrances, new walkways, and spaces designed to reposition Penn Station as a social space as it already is a way station. And planners cited Denver Union Station, Washington Union Station, and even London King's Cross Station and Norway's Oslo Airport as potential models for Penn Station's makeover. And Pula speculated how the station might be incorporated into Baltimore's annual Summer Arts Festival Artscape, and even dared to hope that maybe someday it's not going to be 100 degrees outside. It's not happening. From what we think. Yet beyond the lovely goals and the components covered by the monies Amtrak already committed, many other details were frustratingly vague or non-existent, especially when it came to describing how Penn Station Partners and Amtrak plan to make up what Struver described Colin Campbell of the Baltimore Sun as an estimated $400 to $600 million shortfall. But to be sure, Penn Station Partners made it clear that it was planning to apply for every grant, opportunity zone, and otherwise tax credit possible. But even so, the project will require not only more federal money, but also a great deal of city and state funds. This comes at a time when the former source is lacking, and the latter is not even particularly well disposed to give more money to Baltimore City schools, let alone its non-magically based train stations. And nor was the meeting heavy on certain other key transit details. There was a brief mention of the ongoing quest to find funding to replace the Baltimore and Potomac Tunnel, the 7,669-foot passageway which every Amtrak and Penn Line train goes through under the West and Central Baltimore. And it was built about 3 months after Ulysses Grant's second inauguration. And no such mention was made of the Long Bridge, the DC Rail Bridge that replaced 5 months after Theodore Roosevelt's second inauguration, and it's essential for increasing rail traffic from Philly to Richmond, including Baltimore. Likewise, there's little information about how to better integrate Penn Station into Baltimore's light rail, metro, or subway systems, or its growing bus and bike networks. And Eric Norton, the policy director of the Central Maryland Transportation Alliance, one of the key transit advocacy groups in the Baltimore area, summed up its thoughts about the night. He says it's good to see Amtrak enhancing its service that real estate developers are investing in the potential for transit-oriented development, and they would have liked to see more about all the other transportation connections like MARC, light rail, bus, taxi, ride-hailing, walking, etc. And how could this enhance those connections? Is it an asset to Baltimore, Maryland to have a fast, simple connection to Washington, Philly, and New York? And how can they leverage that to encourage more people to live and do business in the same economic engine of the state? Well, the first question is already answered. It's an asset to Baltimore. It is an asset to Baltimore, Maryland to have a fast, simple connection to the connecting cities. But the question only is, how can they leverage that to encourage more people to live and do business in the economic engine of the state? If we answer to that question, people are going to have to wait till an undetermined date later in the fall, where the next Penn Station draft vision plan meeting is set to take place. Stay tuned for that, please. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. There's a lot more for what Baltimore can do, but maybe will happen and the change over the years. But thank you guys so much for watching or listening to this high time. We'll see you at Garrett's Place for the second half, right here